guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm glad you could be here with me. And I'm going to talk to you about Bob today. And you may be wondering who Bob is. And that's kind of a complicated answer. But essentially Bob is a person. Well, he's multiple people. Well, he's multiple entities. Yeah, you can see it's kind of a complicated answer. But I'm going to get to it here in just a moment. Make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. Don't miss out on my future videos. And if you end up getting some value out of this video, please click a like. I would appreciate the support. And with that being said, let's get right to the book review. I recently finished the first book in the Bobiverse series by Dennis E. Taylor. And it is titled, We Are Legion, We Are Bob. And it is part science fiction satire, part exploration epic, part epic space battle. It's just so many fun things that you love about science fiction, but with a comical and nerdy flair to it. And I just had a blast reading it, or listening to it, I should say. I listened to it on Audible, and I kind of went back and forth on whether I wanted to do the physical book or the ebook or the audiobook. And my friends Carl and Pete over at Geek on My Sleeve are the ones that actually encouraged me to start reading this series. And so I asked them which was the better option to do, and they said, well, you'll probably get value out of it either way, but the audiobook is really good. So I went ahead and got the audiobook, and I'm so glad I did. The narration was spectacular. I had such a blast listening to it, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it, but I definitely think that you should be reading this book if you are a fan of science fiction, and if you like science fiction satire, it's even better. So, and if you're involved in nerd culture at all, which you probably are if you're watching my channel, maybe you're not, and that's okay, but if you are, you can't go wrong with this book. So, the Bobiverse is a series of science fiction novels, as I mentioned, that follows the main character Bob throughout his many space travels. And it begins with Bob on Earth, I'm assuming in the modern day, and he has come into a great wealth of money. And he's never quite fit in his social circles and everything, and he really has no ties or family per se to ground him in the present day. You know, he has a sister and everything like that, but they're sometimes on rocky terms. And so, you know, he goes and he spends his money to be part of a cryogenics program so that once he dies, he can wake up and be revived in the distant future and get to explore what the world is like in the future. So he signs up for the program, and shortly after that, he gets hit by a car, and they come and they prep him to be frozen, and it all goes from there. So later on in the book, we see Bob waking up, and he's waking up in a world that is beset by religious factions who have taken over the political realm, and they've taken over space exploration, and they've taken over the scientific arena, and everything is centered around their religious beliefs and their conservative feelings on artificial intelligence and artificial life and things like that. So it turns out that they outlawed the cryogenics programs, and so the best they were able to do was to download Bob's body, or not his body, I'm sorry. All they could do was download Bob's mind, his consciousness, his brain, all of his functions into a computer. And so Bob wakes up as a computer. He has to learn to speak, and he has to learn to come to terms with this new version of himself that isn't really Bob per se. It's more of a replicant, but he has all the thoughts and memories and everything that Bob had. So it's such a weird world to wake up in, and it's at times heart wrenching and painful, and at times really comical as well. And so as he's learning and growing and researching history and figured out what this new world is all about that he's woken up in, he's being prepped to be assigned to a specific task. And there's others that have been created to be replicants as well, but not all of them survive. So eventually he's getting ready to be assigned. He's learned what he needs to do. He hasn't gone crazy like so many of the replicants have. And he finds out that he is in danger from the different religious factions, some of whom are not as keen on artificial intelligence or even or even a consciousness inhabiting a computer. And then there's other factions that are somewhat accepting of it, but there's others that are really antagonistic against it. And so, they try to shut him down and destroy him. And, he ends up getting put on a ship at the last minute. He was going to be assigned to a ship anyway as its captain or as its command center, but it turns out that he had to go at a moment's notice, and he was able to escape Earth. And so now he's out in the universe exploring and strange new worlds and new civilizations, and boldly going where no Bob has gone before, I think was how the book termed it. So it was really great. You can hear the nerd culture reference right there from Star Trek, and just lots of fun. And one of the tasks that he has to complete is finding new worlds that humans can inhabit, because the Earth is kind of dying at one point in the book, and so he has to find new homes for them. But there's other things too. I mean, during his travels and still being bombarded by people that are trying to kill him and destroy his vessel, he realizes he has to create more Bobs so that he can create more vessels for his fleet. And so, he wants to have multiple spaceships, so he needs multiple Bobs to do that. And, you can't just have Bob 1, Bob 2, Bob 3 running around. You get all confused and probably go crazy trying to figure out which Bob is the real Bob. So he ends up naming them different names based on different nerd culture characters. So you've got Commander Riker, and you've got Homer Simpson and Bart Simpson. I'm not a fan of The Simpsons, but it was funny, and it worked. But he's got all these Bobs that he's renamed based on different nerdy characters. And I think that was one of the real beauties of this book, is it's so steeped in nerd culture. It made my little nerdy heart just ping from happiness. And the narrator especially did a really good job with some of the voices. I mean, Homer Simpson was spot on. So was Admiral Akbar. Oh, I haven't told you about that. So when Bob creates an AI, kind of an assistant, and he calls him Guppy, but he looks and sounds just like Admiral Akbar. It's perfect. So just a lot of fun, and the narrator really did a good job with bringing these characters to life. So I'm really glad that I read the audiobook to get that experience. I think it really adds a lot to the book, I'm sure. I haven't read the physical book, of course, but from what I've been told, the audiobook is just really, really a good way to experience these books. And I can see why. I had a lot of fun. I highly recommend this book. I give it a solid 5 out of 5 dragons. It was really that good. There were a few scientific terms that were thrown out here and there that I was kind of like, huh? What's that? But I eventually caught on, and it's not really over your head too bad. So I highly recommend that you pick this book up. If you have read this book, let me know in the comments. I'd love to dialogue with you about it. Don't spoil too much for me because I've only read the first book, but I'd love to find out what your thoughts were on the book, and if you've read or plan to read the remaining books in the series. And if you haven't read it, but now you're really intrigued, let's talk about it. Let's find out what your thoughts are on it. And I've done my best not to be too spoilery, because I really think that this is a book you have to experience for yourself. And I think you'll find it just as fun as I did. So, and I think that is about all I have to say about Bob at this point. I will read more books. Make sure that you stay tuned to my channel for some of my future videos coming up. And if you were curious to see what my goals were for 2021, I did make a video on my book reading goals and my channel goals for 2021. So I will leave those linked in the description below and in the cards at the end of the video. And make sure you're always checking the description, because I do put a lot of information down there. And there's also information on other ways that you can support me besides watching my videos. Although I really appreciate you watching my videos, but if you want to support me more, there's ways to do that in the description below. So make sure you check that out. And with that being said, that will end this video today. I hope you guys have an amazing weekend, and make sure that you're reading more books. I'll talk to you soon. Have fun. Bye.